Hello, welcome to MTFC 9320 Group. And this evening, we've got the pleasure of Eddie McGoldrick, former City player, joining us. Thank you for joining us, Eddie.
Pleasure. Nice to be here.
Yeah, cool. And we've got Anne-Marie, as everybody knows, is Riyad Mahrez is a fan club. And we've got John. Everybody knows John. You know, there's another hit for you, John.
Cheers, Matt.
Yeah, but I think it's before we start the nitty gritty tonight, I just want to show you guys something. We need to start with this.
Manchester United.
Oh dear.
I could literally watch that all day and all night. I think you have actually. Eddie, you know what the rivalry's like. When you played for us, we were shocking, weren't we? I don't mean that. I mean the club. The club was a shambles, and a lot of turmoil. So people have asked me, oh, don't you feel sorry for United? No, I still see that 34-year banner, what we ripped down at Old Trafford.
No, and I get that. I get that from a supporter's point of view.
Yeah.
But yeah, listen, what goes around comes around, and I'm more surprised, the rivalry, you set that aside, and, supporters love all that, especially, what City have had to go through for so long, and having it rammed down your throats all the time as well. So, but I'm just amazed by, the state of the actual football club, at this moment in time. It's just no leadership. It's obviously being run here by people that are trying to do their best, but it's obviously not working because there's no input from the owners. So,
I tell you who they remind me of. City years ago.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that, John, Anne-Marie?
Yeah, oh, definitely. It's basically the comedy club at the moment, and that's what they used to call us. So, enjoy it while we can.
Yeah. I don't think our comedy club was ever that bad, but you know what I mean? We might have dropped down the leagues, but the one thing that you look at the dynamics of, regardless of where City were and where, and the depths that we dropped to, the players always gave it their all. But you look at this group of players that Man United have got at the moment, and they're just, they're thrown in the towel, they're not bothered at all. And that's the most disappointing thing from being an ex-professional. You've got to go out there and give it your all.
That's not down to the owners, though, is it? That's down to the actual structure and the players themselves.
Yeah, and so, you watch the game last night, and then you see that heated debate between Gary Neville making his point about they've got to get on a plane and get over here and show some leadership, and Jamie Redknapp saying, "Well, it's down to play." When they go out there, regardless of what's going on, that's your freedom. That's where you go and earn your money. That's where you go and play for the shirt that you're playing for. And those players are just not doing that at the moment. So there's something drastically wrong inside that dressing room.
Do you remember what day we was going to win? We was 2-0 up at half time. We was going to win the league that day. And then second half, they came out and actually stopped us winning the league by winning 3-2.
Yeah. Pogba got 2, didn't he?
It shows what they can do if they try.
Well, I thought that in pre-season, John, to be fair. I mean, I know it's pre-season, but they showed some good signs of winning some games. They beat Liverpool. I know it's early doors. They beat Palace. They give Palace a bit of a pumping. But, and then you think, well, I was thinking to myself already then at that point, well, the players are obviously up for it. Why didn't they show that under the previous 2 managers? And no disrespect to the previous 2 managers. Rangnick was brought in, it wasn't his fault, but he wasn't clearly good enough. And I've always thought that, regardless of how nice Ollie is and a fantastic player that he was, that job was too big for him. So, but even so, John, the players, they've got to go out and play, and they're just not playing, they're just not putting it in. And it must be great for City fans, to be perfectly honest.
I've not laughed for a few minutes at Eddie, if I'm honest.
Andy, I was coming home on the train last night, honestly, and I got the train from St Pancras, and we were sitting there waiting on platform 1, and it must have been 6:10, and even the train driver taking me back home, and all the Arsenal fans back up to the Midlands was like, I can't believe he's got over the tannoy going. It's 4-0 to Brentford.
Brilliant.
At Man United, and all the Arsenal fans are loving it. They're going mental, and I was just sitting there going, "Wow, this is just." I had sort of a couple of, and I thought, "No." I checked my phone. And I was like, 4-0 to Brentford. I just couldn't believe it. I mean, it's mind blowing, to be perfectly honest. So there's obviously something drastically wrong, and
And when you stopped at the next station, did it actually say "mind the gap"?
Well, there was a bit of we got held up at Luton Parkway for about 25 minutes. So there'd been an incident at Luton, and we couldn't go any further. And then the reels on social media started coming through that, and I say this lightheartedly that it was a Man United fan on the track, blah blah. All those things are coming out, and I thought to myself, it started already, and you see it over social media, and you think, no, come on, that's a little bit too much, to be perfectly honest. But that's obviously what social media does. That's how people feel, and whether it's at the butt of somebody's expense. I don't know whether the person died or not, but something happened, but that's what those type of things can do, and it's as nice as it isn't. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in now.
So you mentioned social media in that, Eddie, and just before we started recording, you said you come off Twitter and stuff like that. You're more and more active in the media. You made your Talk Sport. It was your debut yesterday, wasn't it? At the Talk Sport.
Yeah. After I used to do it. I mean, I've done a lot of work when I finished and retired at City. I moved back to where I am now, and I was working for BBC Manchester with Andy Buckley. So I was covering all the City games for a good couple of years, and I was doing some work for Sky and Radio 5, and then football kind of lured me back in, and I started doing that again. So I've just come out of full-time coaching there last year, sort of took a little bit of semi-retirement, a little bit of a break, and I thought, I love talking about football.
Yeah,
it's been my life. It's if you're not playing it, you're always talking about it. And
do you know the sign of a top-class footballer human being is when I've not seen anybody have a bad word against you. Even on your Facebook account and stuff like this, fans from all sorts of clubs, and it's you're not one of these ex-players, which we do see, but you're totally opposite. You actually get involved and have a bit of banter with people, as well as you're there talking about the beautiful game.
Yeah, he's a normal human being.
Yeah,
and I've always tried to be like that. Even when I was playing, I always had a really good association with the supporters of the clubs that I played at, every football club that I played at, and I've had good and bad times at every single football club. And when I say bad times, I mean, you get injured as part of the game, and you're out of the side, and you get depressed, and then you work hard to get back in, and then, but I've had great times as well, regardless of what. When I went to City, we'd just been relegated from the Premiership. It was an unbelievable 2 years for me to play for that football club. The fans were so. I used to always love coming to Main Road to play.
Yeah.
Whether it was Palace or whether it was with Arsenal. So I loved that side of it. I loved going to Main Road. It was an old-fashioned football ground. The support from City was always for their team. It was always loud. They were always behind them. And then when you came to Highbury or Selhurst Park, you always had a good following, and I found that, and then we were sort of mid-table in the Championship, and we're playing Reading away on a Tuesday night, and it's peeing down with rain, and there's 5,000 City fans there. Yeah. And that for me just was like, wow, it blew my mind, and I always had that rapport with them. So yeah, I look back on I wish it had been longer. But great fondness, and hopefully I can get up to a few more games this season, and maybe hopefully with the media thing now taking off.
City TV. That was one of my little notes. We ought to see it on City TV.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's the plan. I've had Arsenal on to me today, so I'm going to be doing some work for the side of it as well. So yeah, I've just I messaged Ian Cheeseman this afternoon. Cheesy, so he's going to have he's going to have a scour about his contacts and see if he can do anything for me there. So I just love to, I'd love to come up and get involved and, give my opinion and be able to watch a fantastic, amazing football side.
Well, if you're after some tickets, Celebrity John, he can get all the tickets, Eddie. If you need them. So, Anne-Marie, we'll carry on talking about Eddie in a bit. Let's talk about the match yesterday. You made a flippant comment to me before about me being, what was it, because of the result?
Grumpy.
Grumpy? Why?
Well, because you made a comment in the group that, you were unimpressed.
No, I didn't say that. I said I was underwhelmed.
All right, underwhelmed, whatever. I don't know what you're looking for.
I just thought, right, just let me explain myself over that, because it may come across grumpy. But Aki could have had 2 early doors. We could have been 7 or 8-0 up. And it just, the weather was roasting, that will play a big part. But what was the first half was really good. What was underwhelmed about was mainly Pep taking Haaland off, because Mahrez wasn't having the bestest of games. Haaland I thought was struggling a little bit. So we was 3-0 up. I thought it was a great opportunity to bring Mahrez off, give him a bit of a breather, bring Alvarez on, and give Haaland that game time to try and get his home debut goal.
No, and I get what you're saying, but at the same time, if you look at the way Haaland was marked in the game yesterday, he literally had 4 players around him all the time. And yet he still had the space to make the pass for the first goal. He found space, he had a couple of opportunities, and realistically, I can imagine that he was trying too hard yesterday to get the goal. And
I wouldn't say trying too hard. I'd say there was a couple of opportunities, and I've not, because I went to North Wales straight after the game yesterday. I didn't hear what Pep had to say or anything like that, because I went straight from the match. Now, from what I was told, I don't know if it's accurate, the reason why Pep took Foden off is because he had a shot instead of squaring it to Haaland.
Yeah, he did, but I don't know whether that's the reason he took him off. When you listen to Pep's interview on Match of the Day, he actually said that, because we've been so long playing with the false 9, we've forgotten that there could well be somebody in the middle. So we've been taking the shots, and what Phil needs to remember now is that Haaland will always be there.
Yeah. So what I'll do, I'll unravel what Pep says. He took him off because he didn't square it to Haaland.
Well, I don't know whether that's fair to say, because he scored a goal.
Yeah. No, listen, I'm not criticising the performance. I was just a little bit under. Do you know where I'm coming from, Eddie? With the, you want to have seen the City match, would you?
Yeah, no, I watched it today.
No, did you watch it today? When I say underwhelmed, it's like, if a striker, I won't say he's struggling or low in confidence, because it's only his second game, for God's sake, and his away debut last week was phenomenal. Yeah. But he was struggling a little bit yesterday with us not passing to him. And Anne-Marie, is it right? Okay, I'm going to throw this one straight back at you then, right? Because it's just come to my head. You keep him on the pitch then, if that's what Pep's saying. Keep him, Haaland, on the pitch, because the longer he's on the pitch, the more we'll get used to playing with him. Am I right, Eddie?
Well, he'd have more chance of scoring as well.
Yeah.
He didn't have many chances.
No, but it's only the second game. It's gonna take time, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and I flipped that one, on the other side of the coin and say Haaland wouldn't have squared that to Foden if he'd been in that position.
No chance.
He'd have shot. I think Pep's analogy of it was that, yes, for 2 years they've played with a false number 9. But what he's saying now is that Haaland will be in those positions, and he is getting, and I watched the game back, although extended highlights, and he's putting himself in those positions that Aguero did.
Yeah.
Where he'll get tap-ins. The players then have to buy into that and say, right, they have to understand and know that, and they will. It will come where they'll have a quick look, and if he isn't there, they'll shoot themselves. And if he is. Hopefully they'll square it and he'll get, 20, 25 goals this season. But, his link-up play was good. He's going to struggle in the sense that when anybody goes to the Etihad, they're going to sit back,
Yeah.
and they're going to play 2 banks of 4. And at one point, he had 5 players in front of him. He was standing in the middle of maybe 3 centre-backs, 2 holding midfield players. And if you look for Gundogan's goal, that little one round the corner, and he's held it up. His ball retention was good. He's held it up, and he's spun, and he's put Gundogan through for the goal. So that part of his game will come playing with the players that he has around him. But he has to stay patient. But I agree with you, Andy, in that sense. If Pep's taking him off, leave him on. Leave him on so he can score his goal. And get
It's not as if we needed to bring another striker on because we was chasing the game or anything. It was just ideal. Listen, Pep's a genius. He's
Oh.
who am I to question Pep? But I just thought it was ideal for him yesterday just to give him that game time. And on my man of the match yesterday, I know De Bruyne had got it, but I thought Nathan Ake was absolutely incredible yesterday, and I'm really happy for him. Especially because he's been a bit part player and stuff like that. I think that on the plus side with Pep as well, he wanted to bring Stonesy on, and for him to take Diaz off and leave Ake on, I thought that was testament to Ake as well.
Well, another thing for Haaland as well that he'll have to get used to is that he's playing with a squad of top players, with 3 or 4 world-class players in it.
Yeah.
Where he's always been used to being at Dortmund, or Leipzig or Red Bull, was it before he went to Dortmund, being the main player. So he was never going to get taken off unless he was injured. Now he's going to have to get used to that, So he's just going to. And I seen his reaction, and I thought, okay, and I don't think that'll bother Pep too much. Every player is disappointed when they get taken off, especially a goal scorer.
Yeah.
If you look back through the years of Aguero getting taken off, he was never happy about taking it because even if he'd scored himself, maybe 2, he wanted to get 3.
Yeah.
And if I go back to the Arsenal game that I covered yesterday, Jesus could have had 4 or 5 and he got taken off because he was tiring and they needed fresh legs on there. So Haaland will get used to it. He'll get bundles of goals in that team. He'll get bundles of goals in this team.
Once it actually gels and everybody gets to know where he is and he gets to know where everybody else is, then I'm sure it'll just work and it'll be fantastic.
Yeah.
One thing, he's got to stay patient. He has to stay patient. It's imperative that he stays patient because teams are going to come to the Etihad and they're going to just shore up. They're going to put 3, going to play with 4 or, 2 banks of 4, or going to play 3 at the back and then bring in the wing backs nice and tight, 2 holding midfield players. So the space, and they're going to play deep. So the spacing behind is not going to be there for him to run into. So he's going to have to stay patient and learn then to get involved, play on shoulders, link the play like he did with Gundogan's goal. And yeah, it'll come from, there's no doubt about that. I think it's going to be a sensation, that's for sure.
Yeah, everybody said Eddie about his he only touched the ball 8 times, but the first one, like what you quite rightly said, it was a Balotelli-esque. Everybody in the ground was going, that was just like Balotelli's to Aguero, the way he went down. So that was crucially got. And I was watching Haaland's, off the 8 passes, so everything was pretty much off the ball for him. His movement is absolutely incredible. It's like he's got wing mirrors, he's and a bit like David Silva used to do. David Silva used to always spin him around looking for that space. And Haaland he was more or less a mirror image of David Silva yesterday. Just although he didn't have the ball, his presence and his awareness is phenomenal. And like John said, once he does, once that clicks, it's going to be scary.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
The thing is, like you say though, even when he's not got the ball, he's creating then space for other players because he's getting surrounded. Yeah, I mean, like I said, once it clicks, it'll be brilliant, and it'll take time. But the press over in England do not give players time. They're on the back straight away, and if it's not working, they just hound them. And I just don't agree with that.
Yeah, there was somebody. He got a bit of a. I was this afternoon after I got back from Wales, was having a bit of a flick round, the media and stuff like that. And he's got a bit of a shoe-in, hasn't he, for only having 8 touches. Haaland, it's last week they were singing his praises, and we know Eddie when he goes into his media full time again, he'd never be that one-dimensional, would you, Eddie? You always be balanced.
But you've got to be. Yeah. But the good thing about ex-footballers, if they say it right, they can be balanced. And we've been in that position. I've been in that position where I've had poor games and not had a lot of touches and got taken off, you know. And then but the game's evolved now. The game's totally different to when I was playing. It's totally different, you know. So he's got to learn. He's got to stay patient, and Pep will give him that. But like John said, the press in this country, they're going to look at it and they're going to build him up to knock him down, that's for sure. And if he doesn't score in the next game, there'll be a big noise about it because it sells papers. It gets people views, you know, things. So it's a story. So that's all going to come, and it's all going to be part of something that he's going to have to learn to live with, being at, you know, Manchester City. And I'm sure he will. The players around him are top players, have proven that over the last 5 or 6 years, and I'm sure that he will just get better and better. There's no doubt. But he's going to come in. There's going to be bumps along the road that he's going to have to navigate, and there'll be times where he's thinking, you know, he's a little bit down. But I think he'll be fine. He's got broad shoulders. I don't think there'll be much that phases him. Once he'll be disappointed today that he hasn't scored, and he'll look back. And he snatched that one at the end.
Just before he got took off, yeah.
And, you know, if he'd have scored early doors, you know, if that had been early in the game, he might have taken that with a little bit more confidence, but he snatched at it and dragged it wide. But listen, we're 2 games in, you know, and I think Pep's not just brought him to score goals, you know, he's brought him to bring another dimension to the football team, and that he will do, that's for sure.
Would everyone agree with me? I think our only weakness in that team is a left back, because there was times yesterday where we was crying out for a proper out and out left back rather than as good as Cancelo is, you know, going forward. You know, he leaves a little bit wanting, you know, in his defensive duties.
Yes and no. Yesterday we didn't really need a left back.
But we will in some games. That's what I'm saying.
In some games we will, but yesterday we didn't, because Bournemouth didn't even come up to, you know, I think there's phases of about 5 minutes or something where they actually had a go at us. The rest of it was just, we're camped in their half all the time. So all we needed were 2 centre backs yesterday, and that was it.
I thought it was a great opportunity to experiment. That's a good point, that John, yesterday, to play 3 at the back and put that extra midfielder in, you know, because like you quite rightly said, but, you know, Bournemouth, they didn't have a lot to offer, but I thought in spells they defended, you know, brilliantly. But it looks like Sergio Gomez is signed for us now anyway. So I know he was there yesterday. He was right behind where I sit. With Mr. I believe Mr. Company was there as well. So you didn't see something, John? I didn't even see it on the big screen yesterday, funnily enough.
I know, it made a change, didn't it?
Yeah, Eddie, at the Etihad, John and his daughters, where they sit, they're always on the big screen every single, I nearly swore then, every single game. It's like, oh, here's celebrity John, you know.
It's not me, it's my daughters.
Who are you paying? Just going back to your point there, Andy, about that left back position. I mean, Ake can drop in there. I don't think it's his best position. He's a centre back. But then who started alongside him yesterday? Was it Diaz? Diaz, yeah. So John Stones, is he injured? He's got to come back. Well, Ake can drop in at left back. I think that was always the problem with Zinchenko at left back. I think going forward, and that is the type of players that Pep will buy.
Yeah.
He wants defensively very, very good, and maybe not so good at the defensive side of things. And when you're that good as a team, you can get away with it. You can get away with it. You know, Zinchenko yesterday, his first 2 games for Arsenal, was just, again, with him and Jesus, them 2 players have given Arsenal a totally different dimension.
Yeah.
But he struggles still defensively, even in that team, you know. So that was never his strongest point. City, I think Pep's just, his philosophy is that if we have that much of the ball, we won't have to do that much defending anyway. And, you know, when you're having 60, 70, 80% of possession against teams like Bournemouth every week, you know, defending is not going to be that much of a problem. It's just the concentration then, is that when they do have a chance, you've still got to be switched on.
Yeah.
So he's got versatility, and I'm not surprised that he signed the lad from Anderlecht, Gomez. But I've watched the lad from Chelsea today that he was in for the left back. Is it
Cucurella?
Cucurella. And
Didn't impress me. I think City have dodged a bullet there. I'll be honest.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, 60 million, and I talked about it, and this is obviously modern day football, and I talked about it yesterday about Fofana. Chelsea are in for him, and I watched him yesterday, and he looked like he had his boots on the wrong feet. And no disrespect, but he was plagued with injuries last year for Leicester.
Don't say that, Eddie. I've got Fofana in my fantasy league, mate.
Oh.
No, but I agree with you. Like, average players now are going for stupid amounts of money, and then on the flip side, oh, what a link this is! You've got Bernardo Silva being touted to go to Barcelona for what, 40 million? It's like, really? When average players like Fofana have been touted for 80 million and Cucurella for 60 million, and you got Bernardo Silva for 40 million at Barcelona. Where's the logic?
Go for 85 million. That'll please you, and that's
Yeah.
a laugh, isn't it?
Can you see any of you see Bernardo? This has been like a thing for even the back end of last season on all our podcasts and that, Eddie. Anne-Marie thinks that I'm targeting Bernardo because I want him to go. I don't want him to go. All I want him to do is be honest. I think he will go. I'd much rather a player come out and say, listen, I want to go. You know,
Bernardo will go nowhere this season. Why would he want to go to Barcelona when they still can't even register?
they've done
all
it.
the players?
They
They haven't registered them all, Andy. Read the small print. There's still one player not registered. So why would they then buy Bernardo and still be unable to register him?
They always find a way of registering the players. Always. And but listen, Bernardo wants to go. He's just in my,
Said that, Andy? Has he come out and said that?
no, but
No.
it's the wording what he's saying, Eddie. Things like basically, while I'm playing for City, I will always give me all la-di-da.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. But I'll tell you from a player, an ex-player's point of view, and you won't be surprised about this because Jesus mentioned it yesterday. I don't know if you've seen it on the television last night.
No, I've not seen anything, mate.
He mentioned it yesterday. He wants to play. He wants to play every game, and you get to a stage in your career where you're like, it's different when you're younger and you're finding your feet, and but when you get to sort of 27, 28, 29, the years are ticking by, you want to play every game. It's natural. You want to play you don't want to be rotated. You don't want to be sitting on the bench because you feel, and he gives that side so much. I think he's unbelievable footballer.
I still think he wants to go. I'm not saying he doesn't like City or the fans and stuff like that. If the culture and that's not right for him, it's not right for him. And he'd go with my, well, not with my blessing because I want to keep him. But if he wants to be closer to his family and stuff like that, and going playing in La Liga and stuff like that, good luck to the lad. But I just don't like the there's a middle bit what's not coming out here. And I'd much rather know, like, if we are going to sell him, we're going to sell him. I don't want to get towards the end of this transfer window and he does end up going and we're left, not that we're short of players, but we're short of Bernardo Silva type players, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I have to agree with Anne-Marie. I wouldn't go to Barcelona, that's for sure, the state that they're in. Why would you go there? It just doesn't make sense. From a footballing point of view, you might play, but I mean, the club's in a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Financially, they're like Man United. So,
are they that bad? Are they that bad?
I just think it's from a perspective of not playing every week. He wants to play every week. Whether there's been some sort of disagreement with Pep, I don't know. But if he wants to go, I think purely he'd be down because he wants to play football every week. He wants to start, and he's not guaranteed that at Manchester City.
He might not be guaranteed it, but I think he was the highest appearances last season, so it's not lack of game time.
Well, there was talk of Gundogan going as well.
I love Gundogan. Yeah. I love Gundogan. I think he's is it so much intelligence, and it speaks volumes that he's now been is the official City captain. And that's ahead of like your Diaz and your De Bruyne, so I think that does speak volumes about Gundogan. I love watching him.
Well, he was Pep's for signing, weren't he?
Yeah, but there was talk of him, John, going in the summer. Talk of him So now all of a sudden he's captain. Has Pep made him captain because that's a way of trying to convince him to stay? No, I think he's made him.
Apparently, it's the players that have made each other captains, not Pep. Pep's just let the players decide who they want to be captains. And, you know, I suppose that's the best way to do it. If your players all agree, then if he's going to be captain and the players say he's going to be captain, then they'll all be happy with it.
Yeah, and it's a good way now. It's a good way. I think Arsenal done that as well with Xhaka. He turned it down.
Yeah.
I mean, he and they've made Odegaard. Now, I wouldn't give up Odegaard the captaincy. I'd give it to a defender maybe or a midfield player. I mean, for me, Odegaard's he's a number 10, but he was superb yesterday.
Yeah. There must be something with him and his personality. Like you say, if the players are picking the captain, so they must see some sort of leadership. Otherwise, they want to give it him. Perhaps like with Gundogan. Let's talk wingers, Eddie. I thought yesterday when Grealish come on, I thought that was the first time I've seen him for a while. Really, really positive. Taking players on, and I think it's a big season for him, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And again, if you go back to the Haaland situation, I think Haaland will settle quicker than Grealish. The price tag is obviously smaller, but for a wide player fitting into the way that Pep wants to play, and they've got to hold their position, he's a right-footed player looking to come inside all the time. Now, if you're going to do that and not go down the outside because it's not your natural side, you've got to, instead of just playing it back to the fullback or back playing diagonally into one of the midfield two, he's got to look to come inside and be more proactive and be more positive and try and bounce things off now, Haaland. And I think he didn't have that last year because we didn't have a number 9. Now he's got that in Haaland. I've seen a couple of clips in pre-season and then last week's game where he's almost instantaneously got an understanding with him. And if you seen when he come on yesterday, but Haaland made that run, he squared it, and he did drag it, but I think that you'll see a lot more of that from Grealish this year because he's got a focal point now. He's got a focal point. Grealish came from being the main man at Aston Villa and doing everything apart from cleaning the boots, and probably
I think he did that when he was in a YTS. What started out at Villa, so he's probably done that as well.
He's had to learn how to play, and if you look at Mahrez when he came in his first year, Pep wants his wide players to stay and hug the touchline and understand the roles within the team and how he wants to play and the philosophy that he wants to play, to drag players out that allows those spaces in between the fullbacks and the centre-backs for De Bruyne and Silva and Gundogan to get into. So I think you're right. I think he's an expectant season is there. He's got to do it. He's got to pull up a few trees this year compared to last year. But I think he will because he's got a focus on Haaland now, and I think he will deliver.
John, Anne-Marie, what was the good signs there from Grealish for yourselves yesterday?
Yeah, I think so.
You think so?
I was quite happy with when he came on. Seemed quite energetic, like you say, he was running down the channels. I tell you what, I have noticed though, players seem to have a go at him all the time.
Yeah,
I don't know what it does to him, but he really winds them up.
That's a good point, that, because when Jack Grealish played for Aston Villa, I used to think he goes down at any opportunity, throwing himself on the floor. But when you watch him week in, week out, he actually does get fouled a hell of a lot, doesn't he?
Yeah,
when
he does.
you support him, when he's playing for Villa and you look at that, you think he does go down too easy. But when you're watching him every week and he's one of your players and you see how much, I think him and Wilf Zaha were the most fouled players the year before he went to City in the Premier League. So again, that's something that he has to learn to live with. He has to be better at holding off those challenges. And I think if he moves the ball a little bit quicker, which Pep is trying to instill into his game, those things won't happen. Those things tend to happen when he does hang on to the ball too much and takes too many touches. So he's got to work off that line and like I said, be more proactive and look to bounce it into Haaland or anybody else playing off Haaland as well, and be more positive and get round the back, and then he won't have that contact.
No,
if you look at players like David Silva, though, he had the ball at his feet for a long time and never got fouled because he was just so technical. They couldn't get near him.
Yeah, and that's a great point. That is a great point. But he worked those little combinations. He knew when to pass the ball, and then he'd move to get into the space to receive it
Yeah.
back. Grealish tends to hang on to it a little bit too much, and I think that's probably why he struggled a little bit last year in the team. And Pep's obviously sat him down, and you know, you've obviously seen a difference to him in the opening couple of games this year.
Yeah.
But for me, I haven't played in that position, and this is where I say the game's evolved, because everybody wants to play their wide players on the opposite sides. Where when, you know, if I go back to when I was at Palace and we played City, yeah, David White on the right hand side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who was playing for City on the left then?
Beagry, was it?
Biggs, Biggs.
Yeah. We had him from Oldham as well, didn't we? Ricky Oldham, yeah.
You know, I played in the team at Palace where we got the ball forward and we got it wide and we had to cross it to right and right. That was the game then. The game's changed now. The game's totally different. It's you know, it's about moving the ball inside and running off people. And you don't see. I actually love the fact that Pep plays with two wingers. I love that.
Yeah.
But you still don't see them. It's the fullbacks when they come inside and go narrow that get down the outside to cross the ball. Though you don't see many. I've seen that Reece James cross a ball in today in the Chelsea game.
Great cross.
Unbelievable cross. But everything now comes inside and then it's an overload down and it's a cutback for somebody for a tap-in. You know, that old-fashioned winger type game of, you know, getting balls, volume in the box for old-fashioned centre forwards is gone. And I think City, with Haaland and his strength in the air and his physicality, will maybe have to introduce that a little bit more.
The beauty as well is City have got that many players who can play wide right, wide left. You know, you got Foden, Mahrez, Grealish, Alvarez now. De Bruyne can play there. Bernardo can play there. So it's the interchanging all the time. So if we don't know what we're doing, how the hell is the opposition going to know? You know exactly what we're doing. And I think that's where we benefited, like you touched on earlier, about 2 seasons playing with a false nine. Because it just gives, and even Cancelo can play, you know, well, he more or less does anyway. Kyle Walker, like you say, the fullbacks, even Zinchenko when he was with us, they press that high up the pitch. I think yesterday, Ake and Diaz, they spent most of the game in the opposition's in the middle, in the other side of the D, in the centre circle. You know,
that's the license that Pep gives them, guys. I mean, and there's an old saying in football, and even through my coaching career, I used to say to young players, good players can play anywhere. Good players can play on the pitch in any position if you understand football.
Yeah.
Okay? And I still believe that to this day. And Pep buys those type of players. And to go back to your point about struggling defensively down the left-hand side with Cancelo now because he's not naturally left-footed, City have the ball all the time. 70-80% of possession in most games, apart from when they play probably Liverpool. So, you know, they don't need an old-fashioned left back. They can stick a right-footed player in there. Ake can go and play. You ask Bernardo Silva to play there, and he can play it.
Even Laporte can play left back as well. Stones can play right back. We've even seen Walker play left back and stuff like that, and that goes exactly what you point out.
We've seen Walker play goalkeeper.
Yeah. That goes back to your point. Good players can absolutely, you know, play everywhere. But I it's always that intriguing. It is, you know, especially because you used to play in that position. Watching our wide players all the time. Game's changed a lot, hasn't it?
Yeah, incredibly. Yeah, you know, it's because City have the ball that much, and they keep making that point. And Mahrez could be on one side and not touch the ball for 10 minutes because everything's down the left-hand side. And then whoever's out on, if it's Grealish or Foden, it might be the same. Mahrez holds the touchline. Mahrez is an old-fashioned winger. He's a winger. Yeah, Foden is for me is a midfield player that can be an inside forward. He can be a false nine.
Yeah.
He can be, you know, a holding midfield player. He's that good of a talent. So when you watch it, when Foden does play there, Foden will come in off the line and play narrow, and he'll look to get into those little pockets where he can hurt teams. You know, going to Grealish then, Grealish for me is an out-and-out winger, can maybe step inside and play in the pocket. So it's about varying the game. But, you know, Mahrez out and out, looks to come inside, but he's got that trick where he'll fade to come inside and then check back out, and he can score with his right foot.
He's got to have the best first touch in world football, Mahrez. It's just incredible. Anne-Marie, joking aside, we know you're not his biggest fan, but I think now we've got Haaland in particular, it's made up for Mahrez to have probably his best ever football season. He's got a focal point there now, you know, because like Eddie says, he can jinx inside out. You don't know which way he's going. Now, do you not think, Anne-Marie, he's made for Haaland?
I think possibly he is, but then I know it's like I'm always having a go at him. But yesterday again, he had opportunities to pass the ball and took on a shot himself that he was never gonna get. And I just think one of the biggest issues for me with Mahrez is that, a bit like you said with Grealish, he's come from a team where he was the main man into a team that are generally a lot better player than he is. And he's got to remember it's a team game. It's not all about him. So sometimes he has got to pass because it's going to be a better chance than him having a stupid shot.
You've also got to remember, though, it's the beginning of the season, and they all want to get their first goal of that season. So they're bound to try and have a go just to score. And once they've scored, then it'll all relax. Because I'm sure if I was a footballer, my main aim is to score a goal. So if it was my first games of the season, I'd be doing my best to try and score. And, it's just one of those things. But I reckon once we get to like 8 games in, I think then you'll totally see a totally different side of everything.
I always say, John, I don't even really look at the Premier League table until at least six games, have gone. But I can't help but look at it after yesterday. City top of United bottom. I had my United mates going, I thought you never look at the table until 6 games. 6 games have gone. I went, there's always an exception to the rule, isn't there?
There's first time for everything, yeah.
Yeah,
but
right. Eddie, I want to ask you something, pal. Yeah. What was you saying to Ravanelli there?
Right, okay. So that was the 5th or 6th round of the FA Cup at Main Road.
Yep.
Remember the little Brazilian Juninho?
Juninho, yeah.
Scored the winner in the 88th minute. So I'd scurfed him like I was playing as a holding midfield player, and I scurfed him right in front of the Kippax, and he took exception to it. So everybody asked me the question. So he says to me, "What did you do that for in broken English?" And I said, "It's just, I'm giving it all that. What? It's a tackle. Just get on with it." And he said, "I bet you're not on 20 grand a week," which he was reportedly back in 1996, 97 at Middlesbrough. And I said, "No," I said, "but I bet you're 20 grand that my mum's better looking than yours." And he took exception to that as well. So yeah. Oh,
brilliant. So when you was, obviously you was only at City for 2 seasons. What players did you play with, and do you still keep in contact and that with them?
Yeah. I still speak to a few of the boys. I spoke to Bob Brightwell last week. Spoke to Paul Dickoff last week. I'm friends with a few of them on social media. So in that team, I think the Cat, Andy Dibble, was a goalkeeper.
Champagne Charlie.
Yeah, Champagne Charlie. And then we had Logger at right back, Bob Brightwell. We had Kit Simons. Biggs was there. Stevie Lomas, Georgie, Nicky Summerby, Ube, Nigel Clough.
Nicky Summerby.
Yeah, Paul Dickoff, Nicky Summerby. Yeah, so yeah, it was a good side, and obviously that hangover from getting relegated, it was tough. It's tough to get going again, and then we had the drama of Steve Coppell and what happened there, 32 days, and then Frank came in and steadied the ship, and we looked like we went on a really good run. We went on a really good run. I think we beat Reading on the last day of the season. I can't remember who we played the second last game of the season, and we needed to win really to have a chance of getting in the playoffs. And we just finished outside the playoffs by about 2 points that season.
Yeah.
So we got a bit of momentum, and they brought Daly and Atkinson in as well, and we were scoring goals and playing well, and yeah, it was a shame. It was a shame, and then obviously I think I played about 35, 36 games that season.
34.
34. Okay, well done, and I won 5 Player of the Years, 5 supporters branches Player of the Years.
Yeah.
Which my mum still got all the trophies. So I was just loving my time there. Georgie left that season, didn't he?
Yeah.
And the main player of the year, which is voted for by the supporters on the last day of the season, I believed at that point, was between me and him, and they gave it to Georgie. Can you remember that day we played Red and they brought a banner out that was the length of the Kippax in Georgian, like pleading with him to stay?
Yeah.
When we went to the awards night, all the lads were like, "Well, you'll win this as well." Like, so I was like, I came second, Georgie won it, and they were like, "Well, they've only given it to Georgie because they wanted him to stay." But regardless, it was a terrific season. Played well. We were unfortunate, like I said, not to get into the playoffs, and was really positive about the following season. And then, I went into we played Blackpool away in a pre-season friendly at Bloomfield Road, went into a tackle, and something didn't feel right. And as it happened, it led to a prolapsed disc. And as it went on, and they done more sort of tests and scans, it just got progressively worse. So I think they only played about 12 games that season. I was in for 2 games and out for 3, and just because it was always in niggle. And then I knew I was in trouble the day we were training, and I'd been out for a couple of weeks and was working hard on my rehab, and we were out doing a running session, and Nigel Clough ran past me, and I knew I was struggling.
If Nigel Clough went past you, you must have been struggling
in a running session. Now,
Yeah.
even at that point, I was 30, probably 33, 30, but I was still fit. I'd always looked after myself. I was still fit, and when it came to running sessions, I was always at the front, and I just knew something wasn't right. And we were doing an increase in demand, as it was called there, where you run 1 length of the pitch and then jog 1 and then run 2 lengths of the pitch, and you build yourself up to 6 and then come back down.
Yeah.
He ran past me. So Asa Hartford was taking the session, and I got to the gate round the far side, and I just stopped and I started walking in, and he shouted, "Where you going?" I said, "I'm going in." I said, "I'm done." I said, "I'm not right. Something's not right." But when that happens, and Nigel was a fantastic footballer.
Wasn't the quickest, but as you say, if he ran past you, you must have known he was in trouble.
And I knew I was in trouble. So more tests.
Eddie, how does it affect you mentally when that starts happening, and you're in and out of the team all the time and things like that? How does it affect you?
It's tough. It's tough. And this is, if you go back to talking about Bernardo Silva leaving, maybe that's why he wants to leave. Jesus mentioned it yesterday. They want to be playing at this stage of their career. So as you get that little bit older, you're coming to the end. You may have a year left in you or 2 years. And I always thought, literally, John, Anne-Marie, Andy, that I would play till I was 36, 37. I was fit. I could run. But I knew then, when I got a little bit older, when I started to then maybe start playing as a sweeper or as a holding midfield player, then that I couldn't play on the wing like I'd played maybe 6 or 7 years ago or 10 years before, where you're up and down and you're running at fast paces all the time. So you've got to preserve that energy, and you've got to, look after your legs. So you kind of know that. It's difficult. It's difficult when that actually happens to you, and you go, "Wow, right, the end is nigh." And then you've got to be honest with yourself, and unfortunately for me, it came at the wrong time. I'd had 1 major injury in my career. I was like any other player that had lots of niggles. You'd have a groin strain, you'd get a hamstring, and I had 1 major operation, which was a cartilage operation in 1990, which made me miss the cup final for Palace against Man United. So I was relatively lucky in that sense. But then when you're dealing with your back, it's,
That's different. It's unpredictable, the back, innit?
It's totally different because it controls everything in your whole body. So it was a struggle and a disappointment. So it was hard to take. you know, I could have probably stayed. I had another year left on my contract, and I could have stayed and you know, try to get and make it work. But I knew it was time, and I had to be fair to the football club and the supporters. And I wanted them to see the Edinburgh Gold at that team in the first year. You know, I didn't want them to see the one that had struggled to be, was in and out of the team in the second year because of injuries, and that's the only reason.
That's what fans remember in it. You know, it's
Yeah.
you know, it's, if they see it like like you say, a player struggling, that'll be in the mind. You know, oh, do you remember Joe Bloggs? Yeah, you know, he couldn't hack it at the end. They don't know the real thing. So fair play to you, actually, you know, doing that. One point I want to go back to there, Eddie, Georgie Kinkladze. Yeah, he's a City idol, but yeah, we missed out on the playoffs. Is he the reason why we missed out on the playoffs? Because as much as we love him and as an idol, I think we also appreciate that he was, I won't say a one-man team, but more everything wanted to go through him. He was undroppable and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a song about it. Some might say he was a genius, and I think the legacy of Georgie Kinkladze and the memories that he gave, you know, Manchester City fans will always be there. But from a player's perspective, maybe, and I wouldn't, you know, this is not necessarily a dig at Georgie, but when in that championship, when you've just come down and you look at football now, when Premier League teams go down, and you look at Notts Forest, their first win in 30 odd years today, it's the first time they've been back since 1999.
That's right.
So for 23 years, it's a long time. So maybe without directly blame, it wasn't Georgie's fault because he won so many games for us anyway that season on his own. But when you go to Reading on a Tuesday night and it's pissing down the rain, right, you need 11 players on the pitch.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes Georgie would go missing, you know, and he only played when he wanted to play. Some said it was directed and that he only played at Main Road because there was 36,000 there behind him, and you know it was the right setting for him. So, but he was a genius, and it was a pleasure to play with him. And he was a great lad. You know, I loved him. He used to come round to the house. Him and Buzzer used to come round to the house for a cup of tea in the afternoon, and we'd play snooker. And he'd say, you know, just some of the things that he came out with in his broken English. Like he was brilliant. He was and I could actually see him in Pep's team now at the moment. Do you know what I mean? He's that type of player. He's that still hung on to it far too long. That goal he scored against Southampton, you'll all remember.
Yeah.
You know, you'd have to learn to move the ball a little bit quicker, but he dominated the ball too much probably at times. And when you're in the championship, you know, you can get exposed. So, but what a talent, what an absolute talent. It was an absolute pleasure to play with him.
Yeah, as I say, because he is an idol, you know, for us, but we all heard the stories, Anne-Marie and John Doe, with that, you know, behind the scenes, which you'd be privy to, Eddie. I don't expect you to say anything. So, you know, there's never any smoke without fire. I myself have always thought, you know, Kinkladze, as much as I loved him, maybe he was the reason that we dropped divisions and stuff like that. And it was only really Joe Royle who had the gonads to say, see you, son.
Yeah. Well, I get that. And there was fingers pointed, you know, I will say that you know, after games where we lost or maybe should have won, and, you know, he hadn't done his bit for the team if we're away from home, certainly. So there was fingers pointed and he'd have his say. But, you know, sometimes I think that's healthy.
Of course,
you know, we're all emotional. If you watch that game today, it was an emotional game, Chelsea Spurs. You know, things happen, things are said. And, you know, you just got to pick yourself up and get on with it. It's you have to learn to live and play within a structure. And I think, you know, Pep's got a wealth of unbelievable footballers. How do they all play? You know, because they respect the manager, they respect the coach, they respect his values, and they play within the team structure.
They don't seem to have any egos there, do they? You know, and that is managing players, you know, of that caliber. You know, people can say, oh yeah, they've got the money to do it. You've still got to manage those players. You know, you still got to manage, because the first thing he did when he joined us, Pep, was he knew our defenders Zabaleta and Kolarov, they was past the best. I'll put it
Yeah.
kindly. Pass the best. So he recognised himself straight away at that. We're not going to win anything in his first season, but
Well,
we kick on them.
the
Go on.
first one he did was Joe Hart, weren't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the fans did not like that one little bit. But we now understand why he's done it.
Even Joe Hart does it. I've heard interviews with Joe Hart, and Joe Hart said, you know, although he didn't get time to adapt to Pep's way, down the road, and as time's gone on, he probably wouldn't have been a Pep keeper.
Yeah, he wasn't a Pep keeper, and that's for sure. And it's funny when you just mention egos. I went to the studio yesterday, and I was doing the game, and I won't mention the player's name. And I said to him, he was doing the Man United Brentford game last night, and he's an ex-Red. And I said, "Oh, you're looking well." And he said, "Yeah, you too." He said, "My ego keeps me well." And I was like, "Your ego keeps you well when you're like probably what? He's probably older than me." And I'm 57.
I need to find out who was doing that.
But
that sums it up.
I was surprised, but you know, it's very difficult when you come out of the game because you haven't got the riches that they have now. You know, you're not self-made millionaires and you can sit on your backside and go and play golf for the rest of your life or go on holiday. You know, you have to go out and work, you have to go out and graft and start a new career. I just found it a little bit strange. I don't know. I don't believe that I have an ego, but maybe my missus might say to me sometimes, you know, if you recognise and people say, "Oh, hi Eddie, how you doing?" and you're popular, and they say, she says like, "Oh, your ego's coming out again now." So maybe I don't do that deliberately, but I just found it a strange thing to say at his age that
an ex-pro to an ex-pro, you know,
he feels he still needs to have an ego. Yeah, you have an ego in a dressing room. If you're good at what you do, you need to have an edge. That's for sure.
What was his initials?
I'm not going to tell you.
I need to find that out. Oh, brilliant. Anything you guys want to ask Eddie, or anything Eddie wants to ask us?
I think we've covered most of it.
Yeah.
What about you, Eddie? Any questions for us?
Just listen, what does it feel like to be a Manchester City fan at the moment?
Cloud nine, mate. Cloud nine. It is, honestly.
Best feeling ever, Eddie.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The way I sum it, Eddie, we won the lottery. And if we didn't win another throw-in while I was watching City, I've seen us win everything. You know, apart from the Champions League, I'm not bothered about the Champions League, unlike these two. I totally switched off with the Champions League. But being a City fan, it's like what the analogy. Well, I always say, my son is 24 now. He used to get laughed at. I wouldn't say bullied in school, but he used to be, you know, humiliated being a City fan because although he's 24, he's been a season ticket holder for 22 years. I'm a bad dad, mate. I'm a bad dad. So
No,
when people turn around now and say to Adam, they go, oh yeah, glory hunter. He just reels off all the bad times. You know what he's been through and stuff like that, and they've just no idea. And I know I don't really like talking about them, but United fans of a certain age, they've only ever been used to success until recently, and they don't know how to handle all this disappointment and failure. Now we're used to it. It's
Second nature
for us.
Yeah, it was second nature, and that's the beauty, and that's why I love, and that's why people, City fans, say to me now, "Oh, and I wind everybody up down here." Like, I mean, even my first grandson, my son-in-law is a big Red, and the first time we had our grandson for an overnight stay, he was only probably about 3 or 4 months. So it was actually the derby that John was on about earlier on, and City went 2-0 up, and I was taking pictures of my grandson with me watching the game, and I've got a beer. Oh, City! And he's going there. So my daughter's had another baby now, and we were at the Christian probably about 2 or 3 months ago, and he's got him saying that he's Man United fan. So every time he came out, and I'm saying, "Go back in and tell your dad, just go, come on, City." So come on, City. So I've got him brainwashed, and James goes, "You can't do that. He's a Red." I said, "He's not a Red."
Oh, you can do it. I'm in exactly the same situation, mate. My daughter is with a Man United fan. They've just had a baby, the first one. It's a boy. She's a City fan. And he's already been in a City kit and his dad hates it.
Brilliant.
That's brilliant. But like, listen, I say, once a blue, always a blue.
Yeah.
And a magic too. I love living in Manchester. Still come back now and again. You know, maybe in the summer we go up, me and the missus go up and have a nice weekend there. So, but I'm definitely going to make some strides to get up to a few more games this season. Hopefully, we can get some media work up there as well. It'd be great.
Yeah,
so,
we'll get you. Hopefully, we'll get you some media work. And when you're in Manchester, Eddie, what we will do, my friend, we'll all meet up.
I want to come in that bar of yours, Andy.
And I'll buy you some of them. I'll buy you some Peroni. How about that?
I'll have that.
Listen, thanks for joining us, pal. And you're more than welcome to come to the bar because you know it. This is where the head. It's not as big and as posh as Talksport Towers or anything, but we have all the fun just the same. But yeah, next time you're in Manchester, you know, I'd love to see you on City, you know, City TV and stuff like that. Because to be honest, they could do with somebody talking a bit sense. Because I'll leave it at that one. Yeah,
Eddie, stay online, but don't disappear because I want to have a chat to you afterwards.
Okay, mate.
Okay, we'll cut it short there. Thanks for joining us, Eddie. Absolute pleasure. I could literally speak to you all night. You've been an absolute star. Thanks for joining us and sparing us some Peroni time.
Anytime. I'm going to bed now, to be fair. It's well past my bedtime, you know.
Is it?
Yeah, well past my bedtime. And that's I'm being serious. I'm
just going to have a few Peronis now, mate.
You know what, I might have one now you've kept me up this night. But this is an absolute pleasure. John and Marie, and thank you very much for having me.
Cheers, Eddie.
An absolute pleasure, my friend. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Go City.